Hello everyone, welcome to FTE. Feel the English, feel the fragrance of learning. Today we're going to analyze the poem Rain by Edward Thomas, written in 1916. The important elements or major expressions of the poem. The poet's self-realization of mortality. Spiritual conflict in solitude. Consideration of raindrops as purifier and heavenly bliss. Saluting soldiers on duties. So these 4 points are the major elements or major expressions expressed by the poem Edward Thomas in the poem Rain. Now about the poet, shortly know about the poet. The poet Philip Edward was an Anglo-Welsh poet, an accomplished writer who turned to poetry in 1914. He is mainly considered as a war poet who enlisted in the British Army and was killed in action during the Battle of Arras in 1917 in World War I. Thomas's poems are noted for the attention to the English countryside and a colloquial style. Some of the works of Edward Thomas include 6 poems, 1916, poems, 1917, Last Poems, 1918, Collected Poems, 1920, etc. The poem Rain includes element of spiritual realization connecting the poet's emotion in a wider sense. It is the realization of mortality in a quite solitary situation. The poem also reveals the poet's worry and respect about his fellow soldiers who keep their duties in all the drastic conditions like the stormy rain, etc. Now, what is in the poem? Let us know. The poem Rain is the poet's realization of mortality, expression of the poet's realization of mortality when in solitude. The situation is rare in the poet's life. The poet one day was alone in a hut. He was resting, and his fellow soldiers, as he was in the British Army, he was in the army. His fellow soldiers were on duties. He was alone in the hut, and it was deep night. The and it was heavy. It was raining heavily. The weather was stormy and rainy. The poet was feeling loneliness, and he was in nostalgic situation. He was thinking the situation around him, and he realizes the ultimate truth of mortality of human being. As death is unavoidable, no one can resist death. So every human being must have to taste. Every human being must have to taste death. This is the ultimate message provided in the poem by the poet. And also the poem is a tribute to the soldiers on duties, as they sacrifice their life to protect us, to protect a particular country, to protect a particular community. And as the poet Edward Thomas was also a soldier, he knew well the sacrifice of a soldier. The sacrifice, that is why, of a soldier in this poem, the poet has revealed in a very optimistic view and a good way. So the rain, the first line starts as rain, midnight rain, nothing but the wild rain on this bleak heart and solitude and me. The first two lines of the poem represent the poet's situation. The poet is alone in a hut. He says on this bleak hut and solitude, no one stayed with the poet. He was alone. And it was midnight. The poet was uh, fresh, and he was not sleeping then. Nothing but wild rain. And it was because of the wild rain, heavy raining, stormy rain. There was solitude in the heart of the poet, but the outside was full of sounds because of the raindrops, because of the storms. Remembering again that I shall die, and neither hear the rain nor give it thanks. The next two lines represent the poet's imagination, the poet's fear of death, or we can say the poet's spiritual realization about the ultimate goal of human being, that is death. And he says, remembering again, that represents the word again represents that the poet is aware of death, and occasionally he remembers death. But this is the heavy rain that made him remember deeply about death this time. And neither hear the rain nor give it thanks for washing me cleaner than I have been since I was born into this solitude. These two lines represent the poet's view on the drops of rain. He considers the drops of rain as heavenly place that clean the sins of human being and wash their sins and make them clean as they born. As the first day they born. Since I was born into this solitude. Okay, and it has been made possible by the ultimate solitary situation created by the nature. Blessed are the dead that the rain rains upon. Be here, I pray, that none whom I once loved is dying tonight or lying still awake, solitary, listening to the rain. The poet remembers the dates, and he hopes that this rain would bless them and pray for them. But the poet's ultimate worry for his fellow soldiers, his fellow friends who were on duties. He doesn't know if they are dying tonight, that night, or they were alive. The poet is unaware about this matter. He does not know anything about it. These lines represent the sacrifice of soldiers, as it was as, as uh, it was raining heavily. The situation was drastic. The condition of the weather was drastic and cruel, and in that cruel situation, the fellow soldiers must have to keep their duties. And the poet is unaware about the matter, in what condition they were. So, this ori has been presented by these lines. Is dying tonight or lying still awake, solitary, listening to the rain. The poet doesn't know about them. Are they dying, or are they, or are they still awake like the poet, listening to the rain, listening to the solitary, and thinking the same as the poet thinks, either in pain or thus in sympathy, helpless among the living and the dead, like it's cold water among broken reeds, myriads of broken reeds, all still and steep. These lines represent the poet's helpless situation. The poet is very helpless, though he considers the raindrops as heavenly bliss or as spinacy to the dead bodies or to the dead persons, and also for the living creatures, as the raindrops clean the sins of human being, refresh the mind of human being and other creatures. It is the raindrops, uh, the power of raindrops, the blessings of raindrops uh, here is symbolic. Helpless among the living and the dead. Helpless among the living and the dead, like a cold water among broken reeds. Myriads of broken reeds, all stiff and stiff. Okay, presents the solitude. Like me who have no love, which this wild rain has not dissolved except the love of death. If if love it be towards what is perfect and cannot, the tempest tells me disappoint. These uh, last lines of the poem represents the poet's realization of himself, spiritual realization, and he represents uh, the raindrops as a symbol of love. Though the raindrops are wild, they are also the symbolic of love, and the poet considers himself not uh, lovable as the rain. The lines of the poems, the lines of the poem rain are critical, though the poet has presented the whole situation in a single part, but all the lines of all the words are symbolic in nature, and they are deep in meaning. The poet has used his imagination power fully in the poem and represent a soothing situation about his staying in a solitary heart. Actually, the poet, I have earlier said that the poet represents through this poem Rain. Uh, the poet Edward Thomas represents the spiritual realization he realizes during his staying uh, in the heart and listening to the wild rain, feeling solitude in the heart. His realization is perfect and praiseworthy that he has gone further beyond imagination. He has realized the ultimate realization of human being, ultimate realization of life, that is the conflict of life and death. And also he tributes soldiers on duties. The poet is curious about life and he considers raindrops as pure things, heavenly bliss, or we can say penance. So after all, the whole poem is very interesting, and the poem represents a deep conception of life and death, spiritual realization, and also concentrates the importance of duties, our responsibilities. So this is actually the poem. What is the poem Rain by Edward Thomas, one of the greatest poet in English literature. So this is what the short analysis of the poem Rain by Edward Thomas. If you like the video, please hit the like button, and if you have any queries, then comment below in the comment section. Please share the video to the WhatsApp and Facebook group, Twitter, etc. And I would like to request you to subscribe my channel, because I will do more for you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.